Well, I guess the next project at hand is we're going to go ahead and run all this crowning up in this area here where all the tongue and groove is, so the painters can get this painted in. I'll put you on time lapse for that because crown is pretty much a straightforward thing. If you have any questions, just leave any comments. I'll answer you as best I can, or on the next job I'll portray it in the video. I'm going to show you a little trick here that what we do on the field. It's just a little, carpenter's know-how that if we can pass it down for you, it might make things a little bit easier for you and make a better looking job for you. Now, right here, we have a pencil line. We have one here, one there, one there, all the way down around the whole perimeter. What we do is we take a block of wood and we cut it to length to what the bed of the crown is. I'll explain that later in the next little clip I got for you, so that it beds right. So after, when you get it all, the crown attached to the wall and the ceiling, it provides a nice straight line visually all the way around. That way there's no waviness or anything. That gives us a reference point to nail our crown to, so that it's all the same throughout the whole perimeter. I'll show you how we do that when I get set up to make my cut-ins. I got to cut in a new piece right here that attaches to that and goes all the way to this corner. So when I set up for that, I'll show you the tools that I use to do that, and I'll show you how we get this all straightened out. All right. See, here's the reference line that I was telling you about. I make sure that my crown is tight to the corner all the way down there, so that when the other one meets, it'll meet up perfectly with it. And here's that reference line. It's to the bottom of this crown. And that will ensure that my crown is the same height or the same level all the way across, from one point all the way to the other point. It just makes it a lot easier than trying to maneuver it all the way as you're trying to nail it off. Makes for a faster job. I'm gonna go ahead and finish nailing this off with you guys on my head. Hopefully you guys aren't being jerked around too much and you can see what I see. I don't tighten the corner in until I have the other piece, so that I can tap it up or down so that the corner will meet with the other one tightly and there won't be any gaps. I'll show you that in a minute. when I run out of nails, to save the painters a lot of work. When you saw, I had 2 nails that didn't go in because I ran out of nails. So after I put the nails in, I shot in the same holes, so it saves on the painters. They have a bit of a tissy fit. You have too many nail holes. And this here, I glue this to the back of this one here so that when I put this other piece of crown, it will make it flush with this one, this piece of crown flush with this one. And plus it gives me a nailing base. I could take my brad nailer and brad nail the crown to this, and it'll tighten everything up so it makes it easier so I can putty this and sand it out, and it'll be all nice and flush and all disappear. And that's the key point, is to make your seams disappear when you're doing this crown. Here's my pencil mark. As you can see, by doing that, it also makes this reveal between this crack and the V groove and the crown itself all the same by doing this here. So it doesn't waver all the way down. And that's key as well, because when you stand down here and you look at it and you see that waver, it's not acceptable. Most homeowners won't accept it. And then you have to fix it when everything's painted and caulked. And then, you know, and all the floors are in, and you have to be more careful with everything. It's just a real nightmare. It's better that you get it now and you make sure everything's done right the first time, because by the time they catch it, they want to move in, and the house is almost ready to move in, and then they catch something that they don't like through the walkthrough, and then you got to change it all out. Then you got to make more work, not only for yourself but for the painters, and possibly the drywall people. It's a spiral kind of thing that happens. So it's always best to try and do your best job that you possibly can the first time, and look at your job, and if you like it yourself, if it's something that you would want in your home, then it'll pretty much pass with the homeowners themselves. They'll like it, because you've done a good job. Some things are unavoidable. It's probably prior to the contract, the people prior to you, like the framers or the drywall people. But if that's the case and it's really bad, you need to get in touch with somebody and have that changed before you apply yours, because if theirs is going to make yours look bad, and then there's no paint, no caulk that's going to cover that up to where the homeowner is going to accept it. So it's best to correct everything at this stage of the build to get the best possible job for the customer. Now you might find some resistance from the supervisor or the on-site supervisor, or because they might say, well, it's going to be hard to get the drywall people back here. It's going to be hard for the painters and the framers to get back here. Is there something that you can do? Well, that's when I step in and I just say, well, I will do it. I will do the best that I can. And if it's not liked, then it'll have to be tore up. Now, to get set up for a crown, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in all these little final pieces right here. There, there, and there. They're called cut-ins. So what I need to do is I need to get those measurements for each one of them, and I'll write them up on the wall so that I know what they are, so I don't have to measure them again. And then what I have to do is I got to put these crown stops. These crown stops attach here, and they adjust back and forth to the size of the crown that you need. And once you get the right measurement there, or where the crown beds properly onto your saw before you cut it, it will hold it in place. These things are fantastic for cutting crown, because once you set these, it not only holds the crown in place, but it makes the crown to where when you cut it, every cut that you make from that point on, they're all the same, and the corners will meet properly. Okay, now in order to set up these crown stops here, I have a block. Here, I'll show you. I have a block that's already, see, I have one for cove molding, cove crown. And I have another one for this crown here. It's 4 5/8. And this is what I set up like this, because I do so much crown. I just keep my block here, and that way I can set up two at the same time. After I set this one up, I can set the other side up, and they'll both be exactly the same. That way I don't have to try and make this bed right on here. I just push that tight there. And then I move it over to this other side. Okay, so if you can see, I got that block in there. Make sure it's sort of hard doing it one-handed here, so it doesn't move. Make sure it's tight to the block. Tighten that down. This has only got to be pretty much finger tight, because this operates off of friction, and this will not go anywhere once you have that just finger tight. You don't have to really crank down on this to make it, you know, make this stay. This pretty much is wedged. The same here. Make sure that this is in there good. Tighten it down, finger tight. Now, this one is exactly the same place as this one. If I put my crown molder in there, you can see that it is bedded properly here, and bedded where it's right here. It's good and proper, it's good and tight, it's flush with there. So when this fits on the wall like this, it will be just like that, and it'll give you your pitch. So every time that you make your cuts, from either direction, this direction or this direction, your crown molding, both sides, either cut will be exactly the same. So that when you fit your corners, they will be exactly the same. And when you tighten it all up and nail it, you should have very minimal crack there. I will try, I'm new to this YouTube thing, so I'll try and leave a link to these from Amazon is where I got these. I'll leave you a link to this bench, because this bench is smaller than most benches. Most benches are about 8 foot long. This one's only 4 foot. It's the only size that would fit in my van. And these here, they sell rollers, or they sell these flat ones here. I prefer these, so that my longer material, my baseboard or my crown molding or my skirt boards don't go rolling off. I've had that problem too many times. So I got these here, and it pretty much supports everything and keeps it from rolling off. It's much better. I'll leave you a link for these, the bench, and everything else, so that you want to get them, go ahead. The link will be there. I'm having to keep going, turning the camera on and off and everything. I have another contractor here, cabinet guy. He's coming in and out of the picture and using a saw, so I have to keep stopping here. Once he's gone, I'll have a more fluent video here. But anyways, I always cut my butt cut straight. So, because a lot of times from the factory, they're not flat, you know, they're disfigured. So what I do is I always make my cut first, so it gives me a nice straight edge. And then I pull my measurement from there to the length I need, and the angle that I do, which is 45 degrees, and it should fit right up there. Okay, I've got all my measurements for all my pieces, my 4 pieces for these corners. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut these so that they will fit in there. As you notice, the crown molding is upside down inside my saw. That is for a reason. Because if you set it up the other way, you won't get your 45-degree cut proper. There's many different ways that you can cut crown on a saw. There's certain degrees that you can set it at by laying it down flat. This saw tilts either way, this way or that way, and it's just more complicated that way. This way here is just, you set up the crown stops. You just remember that everything that you're cutting is upside down and just reverse, so that when I make this cut at a 45 here, I pull my length, I cut my 45 here, you flip it upside down and it'll fit right in there. The 45 will be to your right side, and that will be your butt joint. So let's get at it. I made all my cuts for all these pieces. I'm going to put you on my head here and we'll see if they all fit. They should. I hope they do. If my measurements are right, they should fit. So let's get you up here. Hopefully I'll have you angled properly to where you'll see it. Where's my gun at? There it is. Make sure I have enough nails in my pocket, because there's nothing worse than getting up on the ladder and you have your material all set and ready to go and you run out of nails. Make sure that you have everything make sure you have everything that you possibly could use or need when you go up there. Whoop, I almost forgot. I like to use this. This is my brad nailer for the joints. Sort of bow it out a little bit. Make sure it's lined up, because it's bowed. There's quite a bit of tension on here. And this will push up against it. And it'll be, see, you got a nice clean seam there right now. And this, I'll fix in a minute. I want to get this started so it doesn't move. Nail it here and here, so it'll give a pivot point, because when this goes up, this is going to want to go down and it'll close up this gap a little bit here. It'll stay tight down here, but when that side goes up, this will move over and close that gap up a little bit. You'll see here in just a second. Let me go ahead and get a block of wood. And as you can see, there's a gap here when I push on this, and that can be fixed. Make sure you overlap your wood when it's butt up underneath here, that you overlap it and make sure it's on the corner here. If you don't, this corner will bust out for you, on you. So when you tap up on this, see you close that gap up, you tighten that gap up nice and tight. They shouldn't even have to caulk that if they don't want to. The paint will even fill that gap up. Now I can go ahead and nail this here. And nail this here. And then I'll go back and I'll putty that seam, let it dry and sand it out, and it'll disappear. You'll never see it. Let's go to another one here. Okay, let's see if we can get the same results. Make sure my ladder's good and solid. You gotta make sure your ladder's good and solid at all times. There's nothing worse than falling down in the middle of the job and getting hurt. There's no need for it. Just take a second and make sure everything's grounded properly. There we go. Okay. Get this one done. Create a pivot point. So here's a gap there. We take our block of wood. Go. Nice caulkable gap there. Now I can finish nailing off this side. That's why I didn't nail this side, so I was able to move this. If you remember, oh yeah, I stopped my nailing right there. So I was able to move this up and down because I knew that when I put this other piece on here, there would be a gap here that I'll be able to have, so I would have to move it. If I went ahead and nailed this off, yeah, I would have had to pay dearly to get this to move. Would have been quite a bit of beating. Let's go to the next one. Oh. No, let's not go to the next one. Let's finish this one out. Yeah, okay. Put that there. What I like to use the bracket for, because I'm attaching it to the piece of wood that's behind there that's glued to this one. What that does, it allows for this to sit the same height as this one, so that when I go to putty this, then it will be flush. Sometimes you'll run into this problem. Let me show this to you here real quick. When we get our materials, we get it from a builder supply. Now they have different lots that come into their supply that are milled differently. This one here is just a fraction of a bit larger than this one. If you can see, the bottom is sticking down a little bit. This is sticking a little proud here. This is a little proud here. This is all proud here. But I can fix that. I can sand a lot of this away. I can, you know, sand it all down so that it'll all disappear by putty and sanding. It's a little bit of work, but if you want a good quality job, it's something that you have to really do and address. And it's better to address it now than after it's already been all painted and caulked, because trying to sand through that paint it's a nightmare. So you don't want to have to do that. It's best to do it through this primer now and get it all flush so that you don't feel it on your fingers. Get it right the first time. That's my biggest thing. If anything else that I could teach any of y'all or show you is just make sure when you do a job, do it right the first time, and you save yourself so much headache later on down the road. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's see what we got here. We got 2 more to go. Make sure your ladder's good. Since this is a little wobbly, make sure my ladder's good. Push that over as far as it'll go. Bow it out just a little bit. I'm pulling it in the center here, making sure it's tight in the corner, pulling in the center here and bowing it so it'll fit in here good and tight. Then I move this. See, this was the same way. This piece that I cut for this, obviously I cut for that one and this one. This piece is bigger than all the other ones that were sent before. Must have been milled at a different time than these were. Sometimes it's good to check or do all this with all the same material. Make sure that you, when you want to do all this, you make sure you get all the same pile of material from the same shipment, because by that way you would pretty much get all the same dimensions on all the material, because it all came from a different time, you know, same time. It was milled from the factory at the same time. This time I had to order a different crown to finish this job out, and this one here, this particular piece of crown was milled differently than this one was, probably at a different time, which is why it's larger than this one. But I'll have to fix that. That's something I'll just have to address. I can fix it. If it's wood, it can be fixed. That's one thing about wood. You can always fix it. You can always change it. You can always cut it. You can always shave it. You can always sand it. You can always putty it. You can do anything to make it right. That's why I like working with wood. It's forgivable. Okay, nice tight corner. As you can see, I have sanded my joints right there and right there. There's a trick to sanding these out, and the best way to do this is, let me show you, is when you sand this flush, what I usually do is I sand this down so that they're flush, and then I sand out past this way and past this way, and then I make a sweeping motion throughout the whole thing and feather it out so that you, once it gets primed and painted, that you won't see this joint, you won't see any dips or imperfections. it's key that you sand out away from both sides of the seam in order to feather it out. Because if you just sand right here, you're going to have a dip right there. And whenever the light shines on it at any given time, you'll probably see that dip. It'll shadow in the paint. So it's important that you feather it out both ways, you know. There are other videos out there. There are other guys out there that do carpentry and, you know, do trim work like this and have better explanation on things like that. I can only give you what I know pretty much, and if you can use it, then that's great. Now this job is so big that there's so many things that I've got to do in this job. This will probably wrap it up for this video, because in order for me to get everything in one video, it'd be an awful long video. So if you like what you see here, go to the next video, and I hope I, you know, show you a few things there. If you like what you see, so like, subscribe, click the little notification, and you'll see more videos, you know, when they come out. Thank you for watching. Sincerely, thank you. And have a good day.